Alright, welcome back to another episode here at GoRails. Today we're going to be looking at how to build command line-like utilities using Ruby. The problem that we're going to try and solve today is something like this. So typically when I want to go work on a project, if I'm in my home directory here, I'll have to cd into where my code lives, which is inside a code directory inside my home directory. So I can cd into there, and then let's say I want to go work on pay, for example. So I have to go into my code directory, and then I need to go into this work directory, and then if we list out all the stuff here, we can see pay. Then I have to cd into pay. So, and now finally I'm into pay. But what would be kind of nice is if I could just say the name of some little program, whatever, a couple lines, and then pay, and then hit enter, and it would run this program with that argument of pay, find that project directory, and open it in my editor. That would be pretty nice instead of me having to cd. Not that it's terrible to do, but just a little convenience thing here. Not so I don't have to fully type out cd and then work and pay and then open vim. So that's what we're gonna be looking at today. Like, how can we use Ruby to help us solve this problem? All right, so the first step here is to think about a name for our program. One of the first things that came to mind for me was something like nav. So if we type nav right here, we can see that Z Shell doesn't know what we're talking about. And I'm typing it this way because eventually our script, we're going to get it to this point to where we can just type the name like this and give it an argument and have it go and find the correct directory that we want to be in, and then open up our editor with that directory. So to start with, let's make a Ruby file called nav.rb. So we'll make that. And then if we open that file up, we can see right now it's empty. So if we try to run our program right now, we'll see that it runs just fine. We don't get any errors or anything like that. So we're telling our Ruby interpreter to run the nav.rb file, and there's nothing in it. So if we put something in it, we'll do a simple puts statement here. Hello from nav.rb. Oops. Let's go ahead and save that. And now if we rerun our program, we can see that outputted to our terminal here. So this is a good first step. We can get this program to run. What we'd like to do is we want to be able to give our program some sort of input to use. We want to be able to say like nav.rb and then like pay, for example. And this will be the first step in getting it to take the program that we want it to find, the program directory that we want our nav.rb program to find, and start searching around for it. So the way that we can do this is by utilizing argv. So argv is a global Ruby array. And so how it works is like back over on in our terminal here, whenever we say the name of our program file name and then pass anything after it, any of those arguments that we pass after our program file name will get inserted into argv, and then we can access them. So for example, if we go into our nav.rb file, and let's just print out argv, oops. And if we go back and run this code here with pay as an argument here, we will see the puts for hello from nav.rb, and then we see the array with pay in it. If we do something else, just GoRails, for example, we can see that array grows. So argv contains these arguments that we pass into our program file name, and we can use these for what our purpose is right here, which is we want to find the directory that we pass in as an argument to our program, and have it find that directory and open up our editor. So argv is going to be great for our purposes here. All right, so now that we've seen that we can get arguments from the command line into our program, let's go ahead and save that argument inside of our program. So I'm going to clear this out, and then let's make a variable called project name, which will be argv0. So in the case of on the command line a minute ago where we set our program name and pay will be stored as the value here in project name. Now what we want to do is we want to get a starting point for where our program should search for this program name. We don't need our nav.rb program to search every directory on our computer. In my case, all of my code repositories and directories and such live inside of that code directory, which is inside of my home directory. So one thing we can do is we can use Ruby's dir class. You see here, it's part of Ruby core. Dir has a method on it for home, and that will just return to us the home directory of the current user or the named user if given. So let's look at what this gives us. If we go back to our code here, and let's just print out dir.home, and then if we run our program, we can see it gives us the path to our home directory. So this is great. So we can use this now to build up the next portion of the path that we wanted to search, which is appending the /code portion to this. So to do that, let's just start here by interpolating this value here. Oops. So dir.home, and then let's say /code. We need the /code, and then we'll end off that quote. So let's now run this and see what we get. So now we get the path to our code directory. So this is what we want to use for our search, or the starting point for our search that we're going to build out here in our program next. All right, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and save this to a variable. I'll say searchdir equals the string of our home path with /code appended to it. And now I'm not just going to leave it like this. I'm actually going to use a class from the Ruby standard library called pathname. So I'll say pathname.new, and then the argument to new will be the string of our home directory with code appended to it. Now, because this is part of the standard library and not core, we will need to require pathname at the top here. And then if we save that, let's go ahead and we'll look at pathname here. So pathname represents the name of a file or directory on the file system, but not the file itself. We don't really need to deal with the actual files, so just using the name works just fine here. So let's look at what that gives us if we print out searchdir here. So let's say p searchdir, and then let's go ahead and I'm going to clear this out and we'll run our program. So we see we get a pathname instance now with the full path, just kind of like before. So this is cool. So now we have our starting point saved for where we want our search to begin, and now we can start working on how to get the search to actually look through all the files or directories and files inside of our code directory to find the one that we want. All right, so one nice thing that pathname gives us is pathname has a glob method on it. We can use this to search that pathname object that we have. And if we look at the documentation here, it says see dir.glob. So if we go back over to dir here and we look for a glob and we check that one out, you can find a whole bunch of information and use cases and examples and such for using the glob method. So we can use this in order to recursively search through our code directory to find the directory with the path name or with the project name that we pass in on the command line. So what that would look like is if we do searchdir.glob, and then we pass in, let's say we wanted to search recursively the searchdir, the starting point, and then we will interpolate the project name inside of here. So let's save this, and then let's run our program and see what we get back. I'll clear that. Okay, so we can see that the results here are an array, and it found a bunch of matches here. So because of the recursive search, anything that has pay in it, it went ahead and found and gave us in this array. So now what we want to do is we want to filter down these results to just the exact one that we want to do. And in order to do that, we're going to use a regex to filter that down. So first, let's save our search results here to a variable. We'll call them conveniently search results. Search results equals that. Okay, and now we can start working on building up a regex to filter down this list to the exact one that we want. All right, so back over in our code here, I have a method written out for finding the proper directory using a regex. We just call find on our search results array, and then we grab each dir and call 2s on it so that we get the string name. And then we just want to find one that matches this pattern here. Now, this pattern works for the way that I have things set up on my machine. Most of my repositories and code directories live at the top level inside the root or inside the code directory. But inside that code directory, I do have a few other directories, one of which being like a work directory, which inside of there has things like pay and jumpstart and stuff. So this regex here will just optionally find an intermediary directory and then the project directory inside of there. So let's go ahead and with that in mind, let's look at printing out project dir here and see if we get back the right result here. So I'm going to clear this out, run our program again, and let's see what we get back here. All right, so this is perfect. This gets us back the exact directory that we're looking for here and nothing else. So this is great. This is a step in the right direction. Now we can work on navigating our terminal into this directory and opening up our code editor. All right, so next I'm going to use another class from standard lib called file utils. So I'll say require file utils, and then down here on this last line, let's see, I will just get rid of that print statement there, and we'll make a call to file utils. So file utils, and then file utils has a method called chdir for like a change dir, and it would take our path name object. And now what we can do is, now that we've changed into our project directory there, we can use the system method from Ruby to make a system command call. So in my case, what I'd like to do now is, now that we're here, I'd like to open up this file in Vim, or this directory in Vim. So typically when I need to do that from the terminal, I will type vim space dot for the current directory once I'm in my project directory. We can, like I said a moment ago, we can use the built-in Ruby system command to execute that exact same command. So we'll say system and then pass it a string of the command that we want to execute. So in this case, we'll say vim dot. So I'm going to go ahead and save this file, and if we hop over to this other tab here, let's rerun our program and see what happens here. So I'll hit enter on that, and we see Vim opened up. If I go all the way down here, we can see there's a pay gem spec. So we are in the pay directory. So this works for right now. What we'll see here actually though is that if we quit this, we'll see that our directory has not actually changed. We're actually in the home directory still. Now, this is a issue that is somewhat unsolvable from Ruby. I do have a workaround here of how to get this into the actual directory. Let's look at that real quick. So what we'd have to do here is we make a call to this exec method, and then we would say zsh. So now if we clear this out and rerun our program, we'll see the same thing happens. It finds the pay directory, opens it in Vim, and now when we quit here, we'll see that we've actually been moved into the pay directory. So that's the workaround for actually shifting your terminal into the proper directory. What happens though is that behind the scenes it spawns two new processes. So for example, if I go to close this tab, we'll see it asks me if I want to terminate the running processes currently running in this tab. Water's good. So now that we have our script actually running, it's still kind of not quite where we want it to be, because right now we have to say Ruby, nav.rb, and then pay. We have to pass the file and the arguments to the call to our Ruby interpreter in order to get it to run our program. So one thing we can do actually is if we go back over here, we can add a shebang line at the top here. Whoops. That will allow us to drop the Ruby portion of having to pass our Ruby program file to the Ruby interpreter. So we can say, let's see, pound or hash, I guess, is the new name that everybody's using. Pound bang or hash bang slash user slash bin env, and then here we can say Ruby. So this line will tell our shell to use the Ruby interpreter to interpret our program and run it. But with that in place now, and make sure I say that, even if we go back over to our other terminal tab here and we try to run the program like something like so and say ./nav.rb and pay, we get a permission denied error here. So what we need to do to fix this is we need to change the permission for this file. So the way we can do that is we can say commod and then +x and then the name of our program file, which will be nav.rb. But before I run this, actually, let's clear this out and let's do an ls-la for nav.rb and see what the current permissions are. So it's just reading and writing. So let's see, now we need to make this executable. So I'll go back to our command here that we were going to say before of commod +x and then the name of our file. And now if we run this again, we can see now we have executable permissions set. So now what we can do is we can say ./nav.rb and then pay, and we will see here that our script is now running just like it was previously. So that's all well and good now, being able to execute our script without having to specify the Ruby interpreter in front of it all. But the // portion and having the .rb suffix at the end of net, like, we can do better than that. So in order to be able to execute it with just the program name, what we need to do is we need to get our program into our path, which is one of the directories that our shell will look for programs when we pass it a command on the command line here. So if we echo out path, we can see a colon separated list of directories that our shell will search for a command or a program when we type it into the terminal here. So we can see here's one, there's our comma, here's our colon, then here's another, and there's our colon separator, another one, and so forth until we get to the end. So what we need to do next is we need to take our file that is currently in our home directory, and I want to move it into this directory right here. So this directory is actually 2 directories up from where we are. So if I cd up once, I do it again, we're now here, and if I list out the directories in here, we can see here's the first part of the directory we want to go into. And if we cd into that, and we list out our directories in here, we can see local, it's right here. And if we go into there, then we can list this out and we can see bin. So that's where we want to go with our file. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my home directory. I'm going to clear this all out here. And just to show you again, our nav.rb file is right here in our home directory. So I want to move nav.rb. I want to go up 2 directories, and then I want to go into user local bin. Okay, now if I list out our files and directories here, we see that nav.rb is gone. Now let's go look for it in the directory that we hope we just moved it to. So I'll go up, I'll go again, and then cd user local bin, and then let's I'll clear out my terminal, and then let's list out everything that's in here. So you'll see probably see a couple familiar programs already in this directory here. We are looking for nav. Let's see, where is it? Nav.rb. Okay, so we can actually, in here, we can change, I should have did this when I moved it. We can change nav.rb to just nav. Okay, so let's list out our files here. So now we see we just have nav. So with that in mind, or with that done, let's go back to our home directory. We can see we're in our home directory now. So now if we did everything right, we have the proper permissions set. We have our file located in a place that our shell will find it in our path. We should be able to say nav pay, hit enter, and it will run our program and open us up in Vim inside the project directory that we want to be in. So we've now made our own little command line utility with Ruby. So with that, that brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you learned some good stuff about ways you can make your own command line like utilities with Ruby, and learn some more about some classes that are over in standard lib that we don't see all the time. And yeah, go learn some more about that, and have fun experimenting and play around with this stuff. And until next time, take care.